Well, our next guest is the co-founder of Stitch Crew and Vest, which is an organization investing in women-led companies and connecting women professionals to expedite the pipeline of more women in positions of power. I copied that because it was so well worded. I couldn't do it better myself.
Pretty perfect.
She often speaks about entrepreneurship, capital access for women and people of color, the future of work, and women in leadership in general. Welcome to the show, Erika Lucas. You may have to turn that on. I don't know if AJ left that mic on for you or not. No, there's a switch.
Just pop it up.
Got it.
Yes. There you go.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
You know, I wish you wouldn't have said where we are because I'm trying not to look at the results until this interview is over.
Oh,
It's just the
I'm sorry.
anxiety.
I ruined
kidding.
it. I'm sorry.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
We don't know yet. That's the
I know. It's only 10%. Yeah.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. I think last time you and I spoke together at a rally for Medicaid expansion a couple of years ago, which was awesome. Good to see you again. So I guess starting off, you work in entrepreneurship, venture capital, the business world, and in Oklahoma, our government, I think, at really every level, but particularly our state government and the executive, makes a really big deal about Oklahoma being open for business, right? We've heard that Oklahoma's open for business. I mean, that's like a catchphrase now. But there have also been these instances of major companies, right? Tesla, Panasonic, who, at least we're told, are looking at Oklahoma. Maybe they're going to put a factory. Maybe they're going to put a plant. Maybe they're going to relocate their headquarters. And who's to say, whether Oklahoma was really in the running for some of those or not? But they don't happen. And I think this is kind of a theme, right? That there are major companies that are looking at bringing lots of jobs and lots of dollars to Oklahoma, and then they don't. And so I guess my question is, to what extent is Oklahoma actually a business-friendly state, right? Like, is there more to being business-friendly than tax policy?
100%. I think it depends on who you ask what business-friendly means, right? I think that most people in elected office, when they think of business-friendly policies, they think of tax infrastructure, cost of doing business, maybe they think of incentives that you give to large corporations. But if you talk to any CEO, not just in Oklahoma, but throughout the country, they would tell you that their number one issue right now, it's recruiting, retaining, and upskilling workforce, right? So we had almost 48 million people leave the workplace through the pandemic for a number of reasons, a lot of it to care for loved ones, whether it's children or elders. Others were burned out. And then there's a huge portion of our workforce that honestly is demanding more from their employers. So there's a lot of components, but nevertheless, it's left our CEOs and business owners wondering where the talent is going to come from. I think one of the things that we don't do well in Oklahoma, so I do think we're a business-friendly state, but I don't think that we do a good job at keeping one of the main components healthy, which is talent availability. So right now in the state of Oklahoma, we have less than 3% unemployment, right? We are short 30,000 jobs. So we literally need 30,000 more people just to fill the jobs that we currently have. And how can we recruit people, hell, never mind retain the ones that we have, when oftentimes the reason why I get involved and maybe so vocal here with our politics is because I think our state politics get in the way of recruiting and retaining people, particularly women, particularly young people. Thank you. And now even our health providers, right? We even have health providers at the risk of being sued or put in jail that are saying, why in the hell would I practice here? So I just think that we are not getting that component of being a business-friendly state. It's the talent, it's the quality of life that we're providing for people.
Do you see any difference between small startups and like those large multinational corporations?
Oh, 100%. 100%, right? When you're a startup or a small business, you're trying to survive or you're trying to compound whatever revenue you're bringing in. You're also dealing with maybe smaller workforces, like it's like a family, right? Because you're so close to your key employees and you depend on them. So your interests, particularly in the policy level, are going to be very different. You're worried about how in the hell are you going to pay for insurance for yourself as an entrepreneur, but also maybe for your first 3 or 5 or 10 employees. You're worried about tax, how much taxes, but bring in revenue. Are there incentives for entrepreneurs, which we don't have, not at the level that we have for big corporations, right? And honestly, when you're talking about corporations, particularly in the state of Oklahoma, the engagement from those CEOs is very different, right? At that point, it's maybe more political influence that they're trying to get as opposed to really driving policy, in my opinion.
You one of your primary focuses is developing women in leadership positions, right? I suspect if we took an informal poll of our guests tonight, they would agree that we need more women in positions of leadership in industry, in companies, right, across the board. Yes. What are the statistics and what do we do to make that happen?
Okay, so women represent 50% of the population, 50% of the labor force, 40% of businesses. We're launching business faster than our male peers nowadays. Latinas 6 times faster than any other demographic. Yes. However, we're not represented in the tables where decisions are being made. Even though we represent all of those numbers, and we control 80% of consumer spending, right? So when you look at women CEOs, there's less than 6% women CEOs at S&P 500 companies. Less than 3% of venture capital goes to women-led companies. Even in politics and policy, right? We're 50% of the population and less than 30% of elected office. And that's for women in general, but when you're looking at women of color, the numbers are even more sparse. So I think we have a long ways to go when it comes to that, particularly in Oklahoma, because instead of figuring out how we close those gaps in all of those areas, we're actually putting policies that make it even harder for women to achieve economic mobility, right? How can a state, thank you, yes, how can a state where women, we are the worst state in the nation for women. We are the second largest uninsured rate for women in the country. Women in Oklahoma earn 74 cents per dollar that our male peers get. The national average is 80%. So we already have all of these barriers. And now we just passed new legislation that makes it even harder for women to achieve economic mobility. And I made a promise to myself and my 2 girls that every time I get invited, so I apologize if you don't agree, that I will talk about abortion. And here's why. You asked me, come and talk about businesses and be in a business-friendly state. And a lot of times people talk about abortion as a social issue. It is a moral issue. It is a fundamental right. Women, we need the same rights, yes. But it's also an economic issue. And let me tell you why. There is nothing that gets in the way of women achieving mobility in life and in the workplace than knowing when and how we plan family, right? Knowing when and how we decide to have children. Nothing. And right now, women who are not able to access abortion are 3 times more likely to be unemployed. 3 times. Women who cannot access abortion today are 4 times more likely to live under the poverty rate. It's a MF economic issue. It is. So I really hope that in our state, if we really want to be a business-friendly state, I think we need to start looking at these issues not as, you know, red or Republican independent, but if we really want to be a top 10, I'm really hoping that after tonight we don't have to say that.
It's not a slogan anymore.
but if we really want to achieve more and fulfill Oklahoma's full potential, which I think it's vast, we need to be talking about these issues in terms of equity, in terms of how they affect everyone, particularly women and particularly people of color.
No.
So,
Go ahead.
well, no, so I guess my question is, you know, I think when we ask the question, like, what do we do, right? I mean, vote certainly is one of the first things. Is we vote, we get our friends to vote, our families to vote, our coworkers to vote. But, you know, outside of the elections, every 2 to 4 to 6 years, depending on the office, what else do we do? Like, what else? How else do we advocate? How else do we educate? Like, what else do we do surrounding these issues that as you point out, so disproportionately, you know, affect women and in particular women of color? What do we do?
I think we need to give. I think when we are at tables like this, we need to see who's missing, right? And if women are missing at the table when these policies are being put together, then we need to make sure that women are represented. The other thing that I want to talk about, because I think it's what's brought us here, where we are in terms of women, the disproportionate effect that these policies have on women. It is okay for women to talk about politics. It is okay for us to tweet about politics. It is okay, because if you think about, and I love our male peers, I do, but if you think about the societal norms have taught women that it's not okay, it's not politically okay to talk about politics, that it's not okay to talk about religion, that it's not okay to talk about certain issues. But when you look at our male peers, when they do talk about these issues, they're statesmen. Oh, they're educated. Oh, well, they're well informed. Oh, well, they're worldly lived or whatever. How come that's a bias that exists for women. And I am here to tell women, we need to be at those tables, we need to speak up, because when we don't, this is what happens to us. Decisions will continue to be made for us when we're not at the table.
I'm just going to sit back and let you do the rest of the show. No, because Erika, you and I have a mutual friend who is a prominent woman in our community who had a member of law enforcement come to her and question her about tweets she liked. And she told me, and I was like, how dare he? First of all, who gives a shit about what tweet you like, for what reason? But also, he would never do that to a man. And it blew me away, like the gall and the intimidation, and it made me so angry. And that person does not speak out about her feelings like she should, like she used to, right? And it's that kind of stuff that's not okay.
It's not. The bullying has to stop. That's another thing that happens in our state. I can tell you, I have been males in positions of power, that may or may not be on the ballot tonight, have called people to call my board members or my funders because we disagree on an issue and because I've spoken publicly about it. Now, I had an option to bow down or stop. And I know what friend you're talking about. We're in 2 different positions. You know, I'm privileged enough that I own my own business, and Chris and I are in a position to where, you know, we do what we do because we want to and because we want to contribute. She, on the other board, has a very structured board. Our board is also very supportive, and they understand that our mission, if we want to close the wealth gap for women and people of color in our region, we can't just give them checks. We can't just give them mentorship. We have to change the policies that continue to keep this poverty compounding over and over, and we have to speak up. And for the people, you got to stop that. If you have an issue with anybody that disagree with you, that's cool. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. We're adults. Don't call people. Don't use power that way. That's bullying, and we need to call that out as well.
Yeah, yes, completely agree. I honestly have nothing else to add to this conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm ready to,
Let's go have a drink.
Yes, yeah, charge the castle and have a drink. That sounds good. Well, Erika, thank you so much for being here tonight. Everyone,
Thank
Erika
you so
Lucas.
Thank you.
Great to see you again.
We're going to have another song from Cody Pruitt and the Secret Mansions, and then we'll be back to present some election results, right? All right.
Loving you in the day, baby, it's okay. Still take my breath away. The night times the rights are full. Don't got to tell me that it's better when you're laying right next to me. The night times when I get to let my imagination run wild and free. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, like X-ray vision, I see right through. Let's get some breakfast in the morning, but right now it's all for loving you. Loving you in the light, baby, it's alright. Like dynamite. Loving you in the day, baby, it's okay.